Alrighty, good morning everyone. It's Thursday, June 10th, 2021, and we're looking at the S&P 500 futures here. We're going to get started with our pre-market analysis just real quick here. Coming into CPI, we had a pretty swift sell-off, a bounce, and then a break right above this kind of triangle that we were looking at, pushing us right back into the chop zone here. So hopefully they have enough strength to continue this move and get us out of this zone here, because 42.14 to 42.35 has been quite a messy area here. So we want to get out of there. So let's go ahead and jump to our ultra high time frames and take a look at what they have to say this morning. Same story on the 3-month. Same story as we've been talking about for quite a long time on the monthly. And pretty much the same story on the weekly. So that previous high at 38 we have not broken yet. And so right now everything looks pretty strong on the ultra high time frames, with no clear indications of exhaustion in the push higher. When we get to the daily, unfortunately, I didn't zoom in yesterday to point out that we did actually push just a little bit higher on that bar that closed on the 8th. And so we did have a little bit of bearishness there that I realized later on when I kind of scrutinized it there. So we did have another bearish signal from that daily candle that closed on the 8th. So I do want to point that out. And right now, just kind of looking just off the lows, what I see is a potential bullish indication off the low here. So you can see that we pushed a little bit higher on price, but the RVI has come down a little bit. Now, for those of you who have been here for a while, you know that I do not like using undefined peaks on RSI or RVI. I really would like to see a defined peak on the lower end to compare with. But if we want to get into the weeds with it, we can make an argument here that we have a little bit of bullishness off of our daily low so far here. And you can already see the range of today's candle, which still has another 10-12 hours to go, is bigger than yesterday's range. So hopefully this is a nice bullish engulfing candle and we break out from the previous daily high and we start making some new all-time highs today. But right now, we have not broken the previous daily high and RVI has come down. So from that from that top end perspective, we don't have anything wonky going on up there. Just off the low, you can make that argument that there is some bullishness. This is not the best argument again. So I do want to kind of emphasize that fact that I'm not wild about it, but we can make the argument. When we get to the 4-hour here, now the 4-hour is confirming that bullish indication. You can see that we pushed from a nice defined peak here down to a lower defined peak on RVI, but pushed to slightly higher on price. So we have the 4-hour, which is a much more concrete type of indication, agreeing with that more lofty kind of setup there. So we go to let me jump back here to the 4-hour really quickly and just see if we're getting any kind of indications here off of the highs. And well, you can make the argument that we pushed to a higher high, but this is now at a lower high. So we do have 50 minutes for this to develop, so the picture can change, and so we'll have to kind of monitor it. I don't necessarily like the top end argument just because this has not created a defined peak just yet, and it still has quite some time to develop. So right now, a pretty clear bullish indication off the lows. In fact, it's off of the previous candle there, and then the current candle we pushed down and we stayed flat. So still some bullish indications. We don't necessarily want to read into the current candle because it has, again, about 50 minutes for it to develop and close. All right, I like what I'm seeing here. We have this 60-minute candle that closed for 6 a.m. and it has also confirmed that bullish indication off the low. So now we have a lot of indications, whether they're a little bit more concrete or not. They are all fairly bullish indications so far off the lows on our high time frames. So far everything looks strong. Ultra high time frames have no indications of exhaustion, and our high time frames all do have some pretty good arguments for a bullish push, which we have already gotten, almost 30 points from that low. But hey, we'll see if they can continue to follow through. It sure looks like they're trying at the moment, defending the prediction point. So let's go to our intermediate time frames and see what's going on over there. And the same story pretty much. You have this push down lower. This is basically that spike down on CPI. And you have a pretty bullish indication here. So now every single time frame, at least the time frames that we have resolution off the current low, is giving us bullishness. And then the ultra high time frames, no indications that we're done with the up move. So everything looks pretty bullish here. And then off of the high, could you make an argument for some divergence at the moment? You definitely could, off of this previous high back here, just around when Globex opened. But we do have another 15 minutes for this candle to close, and so we could end up pushing up a little higher in RVI, let's say right into that 60 level, and we won't have to worry about that indication. But right now we do have another confirmation of that bullish case. So let's go over to the 10-minute here, and same situation. You can see a pretty strong push down there, and then RVI has been trending upward here. And so even from that low to there, also bullish. So lots of bull signs. And then currently right now, not really any signs of exhaustion on the 10-minute up top. So something very interesting to note here. Last night I drew in this triangle here. So we had kind of a lower low coming down, and I saw that if you look at the daily, let me just bring it up really quickly here. If we go to the daily, you can see how we had basically this day we traded within, yesterday we traded within the day before's price action, and then overnight we were trading within the previous daily price action from yesterday. And so I noticed we were kind of doing this triangle type situation, kind of this squeeze. And so I drew in this triangle. And interestingly enough, we just pushed up and reacted directly off the top end of that. So if I could zoom in, you can see that we came right into the top of that triangle and found a little bit of resistance. Sorry, I almost sneezed there. And just interesting to note as well that we broke below and held below the back end of that trend line, and they tried to push it, and then we found support right around 06, 07 here, off that CPI sell-off and bounced, and now we're right in the middle of all the chop, like I said at the beginning here. So again, ideally we want to break above 42.35 and more so 42.38 here, and hopefully start to get some nice trending up into some new all-time highs this morning, because we do have so many bullish indications off the lows. We do want to keep in mind that we are still stuck in the chop zone, so it very well could come up, test the all-time high, maybe even push past the all-time high, and then come right back in. So we got to keep that in mind. Let's take a look at the 3-minute really quick here. We do have about 15 more minutes until the open. So we started a little bit earlier and had a fairly quick analysis this morning. So we do have time to kind of digest everything and start getting ready for the open. But on the 3-minute here, I did want to just look and see off that low if we did get divergence, and sure enough, on a number of swing lows, if you compare, you have some pretty clear divergence off that low. So everything is pointing to bullishness, and then obviously we do have to consider the fact that it almost pushed 30 points from that indication. So this might be all we get, and you know, we'll just have to play it with whatever the market has to give us this morning. So that's where we're at, and